What a beautiful day for a walk.
Yeah, can we get ice cream?
Of course, sweetie.
That child really looks like me. Who might he be?
After 3 years cheating, husband found out wife had given birth to a son, you won't believe. Distinguished viewers, welcome to Luxury True Life Stories. Please like and subscribe for more amazing real-life luxury stories. Now, let's get into the story. Desmond Clement grew up in a busy American city in a small home with his hard-working parents. His father, Martin Clement, was a bus driver, and his mother, Elaine Clement, worked as a nurse. Life was not easy, but his parents believed strongly in discipline and education. From childhood, Desmond loved drawing buildings and imagining new designs. His father once bought him a small sketchbook, and Desmond filled every page with drawings of towers and houses. Even as a boy, he dreamed of becoming a great architect. In school, Desmond was quiet, focused, and determined. His teachers admired his intelligence and dedication. His favorite subjects were mathematics and design because they allowed him to combine logic and creativity. His closest friend was Lucas Bennett, a cheerful boy who often encouraged him. Lucas believed Desmond would one day build remarkable structures that people would admire. After finishing university with strong results in architecture, Desmond stepped into the professional world with confidence and ambition. He wanted success, respect, and a life that would make his parents proud. At that time, he did not know that his future would soon change in ways he never expected. Deborah Reed lived in a quiet neighborhood not far from the city center. She worked as a literature teacher at a small private school where students admired her calm voice and thoughtful lessons. Deborah loved books, poetry, and long walks in peaceful parks. She believed stories had the power to change people's lives. Her parents, Harold Reed and Margaret Reed, had raised her with strong values of kindness, honesty, and patience. Her father was a retired history professor, and her mother once worked as a librarian. Growing up in a home filled with books shaped Deborah into a thoughtful and compassionate woman. Unlike many people around her, Deborah did not chase fame or wealth. Her dream was simple: she wanted a meaningful life, a loving family, and a peaceful home filled with laughter. She enjoyed painting in her spare time and sometimes wrote short stories that she kept in a small journal. Her closest friend was Emily Carter, a lively and supportive woman who worked as a journalist. Emily often encouraged Deborah to share her writing with the world, but Deborah preferred a quiet life. Even though Deborah was surrounded by caring friends and family, one part of her life still felt incomplete. She had always hoped to meet someone who shared her values and dreams. Someone kind, patient, and loyal. She believed that one day love would come into her life naturally. What Deborah did not know was that her life was about to change very soon when she would unexpectedly meet a man named Desmond Clement. One Saturday afternoon, the city hosted a community charity event in a large public park. Local organizations had set up small tents, and people gathered to support education programs and neighborhood projects. Desmond attended the event because his architecture firm had volunteered to help design a new community center. Although he usually preferred quiet workspaces to crowded places, he knew networking was important for his growing career. Deborah was also at the event, helping the school where she taught raise funds for a small library project. She stood near a table filled with books donated by parents and teachers. Her warm smile and gentle voice attracted many visitors who stopped to support the cause. While walking through the park, Desmond noticed the small book stand and paused out of curiosity. He picked up a book and began flipping through the pages. That simple moment led to their first conversation. Deborah greeted him politely, and the two began talking about books, education, and the importance of community projects. Desmond was surprised by how easy it was to talk to her. Deborah, in turn, admired his thoughtful ideas and quiet confidence. What began as a brief conversation soon turned into a long and pleasant discussion that neither of them expected would be the start of something much deeper. After their first meeting, Desmond and Deborah stayed in touch. Their conversations began with simple messages about books and work, but soon they started meeting for coffee in a quiet cafe near the city park. Desmond admired Deborah's calm nature and thoughtful way of seeing the world. Deborah, on the other hand, respected Desmond's determination and the passion he had for architecture. Their personalities were different, yet they complemented each other perfectly. As weeks passed, their connection grew stronger. They explored the city together, visiting museums, bookstores, and small restaurants hidden in quiet streets. Deborah enjoyed listening to Desmond talk about buildings and design, while Desmond found comfort in Deborah's peaceful outlook on life. With Deborah, he felt relaxed in a way he had never experienced before. Lucas Bennett, Desmond's longtime friend, quickly noticed how happy Desmond seemed whenever Deborah's name came up in conversation. One evening, they sat together on a bench in the park where they first met. The city lights glowed softly in the distance as people walked by enjoying the calm night air. Desmond realized how important Deborah had become to him. Deborah felt the same quiet certainty growing in her heart. Neither of them rushed their feelings, but both understood that something meaningful was beginning between them. Months passed, and Desmond and Deborah's relationship grew deeper and stronger. What began as simple conversations had become a bond built on trust and understanding. They supported each other through busy schedules and everyday challenges. Deborah often encouraged Desmond when work became stressful, reminding him why he started chasing his dream of architecture in the first place. Desmond, in return, admired Deborah's patience and kindness toward her students and the people around her. Desmond slowly became close to Deborah's family. Her father, Harold Reed, enjoyed long discussions with him about history and the design of famous buildings. Her mother, Margaret Reed, appreciated Desmond's respectful manners and calm personality. Deborah also met Desmond's parents, Martin and Elaine Clement, who warmly welcomed her into their home. They were happy to see their son with someone who truly cared for him. Deborah's gentle nature made everyone feel comfortable. One evening, during a quiet dinner at a small restaurant overlooking the city lights, Desmond made an important decision. He spoke sincerely about his dreams for the future and how Deborah had become a central part of them. With calm confidence, he asked her to marry him. Deborah felt a wave of emotion and happiness as she listened. She believed deeply in the love they had built together. Without hesitation, she accepted his proposal, marking the beginning of a new chapter in both their lives. Desmond and Deborah's wedding was simple but beautiful. Close friends and family gathered in a quiet garden just outside the city. The ceremony was filled with warmth, laughter, and genuine happiness. Deborah wore an elegant but modest dress, while Desmond stood proudly beside her, feeling grateful for the life they were beginning together. Lucas Bennett served as Desmond's best man, delivering a heartfelt speech about friendship and loyalty that made everyone smile. Deborah's friend Emily Carter helped organize the celebration and captured many photographs that would later become treasured memories. After the wedding, Desmond and Deborah moved into a small but comfortable apartment near the city center. It was not luxurious, but it was full of warmth and hope. Deborah decorated the living room with bookshelves and small paintings she created in her spare time. Desmond set up a work corner where he could sketch new architectural ideas. In the evenings, they often cooked dinner together and shared stories about their day. These quiet moments became the foundation of their happiness. During this time, Desmond's career slowly began to grow. His designs impressed several senior architects at his firm, and he started receiving more important projects. Deborah continued teaching at her school, where her students admired her dedication. Life seemed peaceful and promising. Both of them believed they were building a strong future together, unaware that unexpected challenges would soon begin to test the strength of their marriage. As months passed, Desmond's career began moving faster than he expected. His architectural designs caught the attention of senior partners in his firm, and soon he was assigned to larger projects that demanded long hours and constant focus. Meetings, deadlines, and late-night design revisions became part of his daily routine. Although he was proud of his progress, the pressure slowly began to consume most of his time. Deborah noticed how exhausted he often looked when he returned home late in the evening. Deborah tried her best to support him. She prepared meals, encouraged him when he felt overwhelmed, and reminded him to take breaks. But the quiet evenings they once enjoyed together became less frequent. Desmond was often distracted by work calls or urgent messages from colleagues. Even though he cared deeply about Deborah, the growing demands of his career began creating distance between them. Deborah sensed the change but remained patient, believing the busy period would pass. Around this time, a new project brought several new professionals into Desmond's workplace. Among them was a confident and ambitious marketing consultant named Susan Thompson. She was known for her sharp communication skills and charming personality. Susan quickly became popular in the office, easily starting conversations with colleagues. During one meeting, she was introduced to Desmond as the consultant responsible for promoting the firm's upcoming projects. Neither of them realized that this introduction would eventually lead to a turning point in Desmond's life. Susan Thompson was confident, intelligent, and very aware of the influence her personality had on people. She came from a wealthy family and had built a strong career in corporate marketing. And like Deborah, who valued simplicity and quiet happiness, Susan enjoyed fast-paced environments, luxury, and attention. She was known among colleagues for her charm and persuasive communication skills. In meetings, she spoke with confidence and easily impressed clients with her ideas. Working closely with Desmond on the firm's promotional campaigns, Susan quickly noticed his talent and ambition. She admired the creativity behind his architectural designs and often praised his work during presentations. At first, their interactions were purely professional. They discussed projects, shared ideas, and spent time reviewing design plans together. Because of their frequent meetings, they gradually became more familiar with each other. Over time, Susan began inviting Desmond to casual gatherings after work where many employees met to relax and talk about projects. Desmond initially joined these meetings simply to build professional connections. However, Susan's outgoing personality and constant compliments made him feel appreciated in a different way. While Deborah remained patient and supportive at home, Desmond slowly found himself spending more time at work events. Without realizing it, the balance between his personal life and professional world was beginning to shift. As Desmond spent more time at work, his evenings at home became shorter and quieter. Meetings often stretched late into the night, and business dinners became frequent. Deborah tried to remain understanding because she knew how important Desmond's career was to him. She continued supporting him with patience, often staying awake to greet him when he returned home after long days. Yet the warm conversations they once shared slowly began to fade. Susan's presence at work continued to grow. She frequently praised Desmond's ideas during team discussions and encouraged him to aim for higher recognition within the company. Her confidence and enthusiasm made Desmond feel valued and admired in a new way. What started as professional collaborations slowly became friendly conversations during breaks and after meetings. They began sharing stories about work challenges and personal ambitions. Meanwhile, Deborah quietly noticed the changes in her husband. He seemed distracted and less present during the little time they spent together. Although she felt a growing concern, she did not immediately confront him. Deborah believed relationships required patience and understanding, so she hoped the situation would improve. However, the emotional distance between them continued to widen, slowly pushing their once strong connection into uncertain territory. As time passed, the distance between Desmond and Deborah became impossible to ignore. Their conversations became shorter, and the warmth that once filled their home slowly faded. Deborah tried several times to talk with Desmond about the growing gap between them. She hoped they could rebuild the closeness they once shared. Desmond, however, often brushed aside these conversations, insisting that work pressure was temporary and that things would soon return to normal. Meanwhile, Susan continued to grow closer to Desmond. She frequently encouraged him to focus on his career and personal ambitions. Her confident personality and constant attention made Desmond feel understood during a time when he felt overwhelmed. Slowly, he began spending more time with Susan outside work discussions. What had started as professional collaboration eventually turned into an emotional attachment that complicated his marriage. The tension at home reached a breaking point. After several serious arguments and long periods of silence, Desmond made a decision that would permanently change both their lives. Believing that their relationship could no longer work, he chose to end the marriage. Deborah was deeply hurt by the decision, but remained calm and dignified. Unknown to Desmond, Deborah was already carrying a life-changing secret that he had not yet discovered. After the divorce, Deborah quietly left the apartment that once held so many memories. She moved into a small, peaceful home on the edge of the city, closer to her parents. Harold and Margaret Reed welcomed her with open arms, offering comfort and support during one of the most difficult moments of her life. Although Deborah carried deep emotional pain, she remained calm and composed. She believed that time and patience would eventually help her heal. During this period, Deborah discovered something that would change her future completely. She was expecting a child. The news brought mixed emotions. While the situation was unexpected and challenging, Deborah also felt a quiet sense of hope growing within her. She decided not to contact Desmond about the pregnancy. Instead, she chose to focus on building a peaceful life for herself and the child she would soon welcome into the world. With the support of her parents and her close friend Emily Carter, Deborah slowly rebuilt her routine. She continued teaching at her school and spent her evenings preparing for motherhood. Despite the heartbreak she had experienced, Deborah showed remarkable strength and determination. She believed that her child deserved a life filled with love, stability, and kindness. Quietly, she prepared herself for a new chapter that would soon begin. Months passed, and Deborah's quiet home slowly filled with preparation and anticipation. With the support of her parents, she carefully arranged a small room for the baby. Margaret Reed helped choose simple furniture, while Harold Reed often spent evenings assembling shelves and quietly reading parenting books. Deborah continued teaching during the early months of her pregnancy, maintaining her calm routine while gradually adjusting to the changes in her life. Though the journey was not easy, she found strength in the thought that a new life was growing, one that would bring meaning and purpose to her future. On a peaceful morning in early spring, Deborah gave birth to a healthy baby boy at a nearby hospital. Her parents and close friend Emily Carter were by her side, offering encouragement and comfort. When Deborah first held her son, she felt a powerful wave of love and responsibility. She named him Daniel Reed, choosing a name that symbolized strength and hope. In that moment, Deborah made a silent promise that she would raise him with care, honesty, and kindness. As the months passed, Deborah devoted herself completely to motherhood. Daniel grew into a cheerful child with curious eyes and a calm personality. Deborah balanced her teaching career with raising her son, supported by her parents and trusted friends. Their home was filled with laughter, bedtime stories, and peaceful evenings. Deborah rarely spoke about the past, focusing instead on creating a stable and loving environment for Daniel. Unknown to Desmond, his life had already changed forever, even though he had not yet discovered the truth. While Deborah focused on raising her son, Desmond continued his life in the fast-moving world of architecture. After the divorce, he grew even more focused on work, believing success would bring him satisfaction. Susan Thompson remained by his side during this time, often attending social events and business gatherings with him. From the outside, their relationship appeared exciting and successful. They visited expensive restaurants, attended industry celebrations, and surrounded themselves with influential people. However, beneath the surface, something felt incomplete. Susan valued status and opportunity, and she often pushed Desmond to chase bigger projects and greater recognition. Conversations between them usually centered on business, connections, and ambition. The quiet warmth and emotional support Desmond once experienced with Deborah were no longer present. At times, he noticed the difference but chose to ignore the feeling, convincing himself that his current life was the right path. As months turned into years, Desmond achieved several professional milestones. His designs gained attention, and his reputation in the firm continued to grow. Yet despite the success, moments of silence often left him feeling strangely restless. The busy lifestyle he once desired began to feel exhausting. Without realizing it, the choices he had made were slowly leading him toward a moment that would completely change his understanding of the past. One evening, after a long day of meetings and design presentations, Desmond left his office later than usual. The city streets were quiet, and the cool night air carried the distant sounds of traffic. His mind was still occupied with work as he drove home. The pressure of deadlines and expectations had followed him everywhere, leaving little space for rest. As he approached a busy intersection, a sudden distraction changed everything. A speeding vehicle ignored a traffic signal and collided with Desmond's car. The impact was sudden and severe. The sound of twisting metal echoed across the street as nearby drivers quickly called for emergency services. Desmond was rushed to the hospital, where doctors worked carefully to treat his injuries. The accident left him with serious physical challenges that required months of recovery and therapy. During the difficult weeks that followed, Desmond experienced a completely different reality from the fast-paced life he once knew. He could no longer move with the same independence or focus entirely on work. The long recovery forced him to slow down and face moments of deep reflection. The life he had once believed was stable now felt uncertain, and the people around him would soon reveal who truly cared about his well-being. The weeks following the accident were difficult for Desmond. He spent long days in the hospital and later in the rehabilitation center, where doctors and therapists helped him slowly regain strength. The once energetic architect now faced a slower, uncertain recovery. The routine of therapy sessions, medical checkups, and quiet evenings replaced the busy meetings and social events that once filled his life. At first, Susan Thompson visited occasionally. She brought flowers and spoke about work updates, but her visits gradually became shorter and less frequent. Susan had always admired Desmond when he was confident, successful, and constantly moving forward. Now that his life had slowed and his future seemed uncertain, her interest began to fade. She often mentioned how demanding her schedule had become and how difficult it was to balance everything. Eventually, the visit stopped completely. Susan sent a brief message explaining that their lives were moving in different directions and that she needed to focus on her own opportunities. The message was polite but distant. For Desmond, the realization was painful but clear. In his most vulnerable moment, the person he believed would stand beside him had chosen to walk away. Alone with his thoughts during recovery, Desmond began reflecting on the choices he had made and the people he had once taken for granted. Recovery was slow, but Desmond refused to give up. The long hours in therapy taught him patience and discipline in a new way. Simple actions that once felt effortless now required determination. Over time, his strength gradually returned. During quiet evenings, he began sketching again, filling new pages with architectural ideas. These sketches were different from his earlier work. They reflected deeper thought, resilience, and a new understanding of life. When Desmond finally returned to the professional world, many colleagues were surprised by his renewed focus. His experiences had changed his perspective. Instead of chasing recognition alone, he now designed buildings that emphasized community spaces and human connection. One of his new projects, a thoughtfully designed community center, gained attention for its innovative style and emotional inspiration. Industry leaders began recognizing his work, and his reputation grew stronger than before. Despite the professional success, Desmond often felt a quiet loneliness. Fame and recognition could not replace the sense of peace he once had in his personal life. The busy events and celebrations now felt less meaningful. As 3 years quietly passed since the divorce, Desmond often found himself reflecting on the past. One evening, seeking a moment to clear his thoughts, he decided to visit a quiet bar in the city, unaware that the night would soon bring an unexpected discovery. 3 years had passed since Desmond's divorce and the accident that changed his life. One evening, after finishing a long day reviewing new architectural plans, he felt unusually restless. The city outside his office window glowed with bright lights, but his mind felt heavy with thoughts. Hoping to clear his head, he decided to visit a quiet bar not far from his workplace. It was a simple place where professionals often stopped for a calm evening drink. Inside, the atmosphere was peaceful. Soft music played in the background while small groups of people spoke quietly at their tables. Desmond sat at the counter and ordered a drink, letting the calm environment settle his thoughts. As he looked around the room, he noticed families and friends enjoying relaxed conversations. For a moment, he wondered how different his life might have been if certain decisions had turned out differently. Just as he was about to leave, something unexpected caught his attention near the entrance of the bar. A woman walked in holding the hand of a small child. At first, he only glanced briefly, but something about the woman's familiar presence made him look again. His heart suddenly skipped a beat. Standing just a few steps away was Deborah Reed, the woman he had once loved and the person he had not seen in 3 years. Beside her stood a young boy whose appearance would soon leave Desmond completely stunned. Desmond froze in his seat as he looked more carefully toward the entrance. Deborah stood calmly near a table, gently helping the little boy remove his small jacket. The child looked about 3 years old, with bright, curious eyes and soft brown hair. For a moment, Desmond simply watched in silence, trying to process what he was seeing. Deborah looked peaceful and confident, very different from the woman he had last seen during the painful days of their divorce. The boy held Deborah's hand and spoke to her softly while pointing toward a dessert display near the counter. Deborah smiled warmly and nodded, guiding him toward a nearby table. As Desmond continued watching, something about the child felt strangely familiar. The shape of the boy's face, the way he moved, even his quiet expression reminded Desmond of someone. A deep sense of realization slowly began to form in his mind. His heart started beating faster as the possibility became clearer. The timing made sense. The age of the child matched the years that had passed since the divorce. Desmond felt a sudden wave of shock and disbelief. He stood slowly from his seat, unable to ignore the thought that had just entered his mind. If what he was thinking was true, then the little boy sitting beside Deborah might be his son, something he had never known about until this very moment. With a mixture of nervousness and disbelief, Desmond slowly walked toward Deborah's table. Every step felt heavier than the last. Deborah looked up as he approached, and for a brief moment both of them stood silently, surprised to see each other after so many years. The little boy sat quietly beside her, observing the situation with innocent curiosity. Desmond struggled to find the right words, but the question that had formed in his mind could not remain unspoken. Deborah remained calm, though the sudden encounter clearly stirred old emotions. Desmond gently asked about the child. His voice carried both uncertainty and hope. Deborah looked at the boy for a moment before meeting Desmond's eyes again. With quiet honesty, she revealed the truth that had been hidden for years. The boy was Daniel, her son. She explained that she had been pregnant when their marriage ended, but by the time she discovered it, Desmond had already chosen to move on with his new life. The words struck Desmond deeply. Everything suddenly made sense: the boy's age, his familiar appearance, and the life Deborah had quietly built on her own. Regret filled his heart as he realized what he had missed. He had unknowingly walked away from not only his marriage, but also the chance to know his own child. Standing there in silence, Desmond understood that the moment before him had changed everything he believed about the past. Desmond stood quietly for a moment, overwhelmed by the truth he had just heard. Regret filled his heart as he looked at Deborah and the young boy sitting beside her. The realization that he had missed the first years of his own son's life weighed heavily on him. With sincerity in his voice, he apologized to Deborah for the pain he had caused and for the mistakes he had made in the past. His words were not rushed. They carried genuine remorse and understanding. Deborah listened calmly. The years had given her strength and clarity. Raising Daniel had taught her patience and resilience, and she had built a peaceful life centered around her son and her family. She did not respond with anger, but she also did not immediately offer forgiveness. Instead, she spoke honestly about the challenges she had faced raising Daniel alone and the importance of protecting the stable life she had created. Desmond respected her feelings and promised that he would not force anything. He simply asked for the chance to slowly become part of Daniel's life and to show that he had changed. Deborah thought carefully before agreeing to give him that opportunity. It was not a complete reconciliation, but it was a beginning. As they left the bar that evening, the future remained uncertain, yet a small door had opened for healing, understanding, and the possibility of a new chapter in all their lives. And that brings us to the end of today's story. The world of luxury often hides stories deeper than what meets the eye. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more captivating stories on Luxury Jewel Life Stories. Until our next story, take care and stay tuned for more.